We're back for another installment of the Curator's Corner with Phil Schreier. He is the senior curator at the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia. And Phil, this presentation is beautiful. The 1903 Colt Pocket Model M with box and all the literature. Tell us about this beautiful firearm.
And it's just beautiful, John.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous piece. I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite, semi-automatic handguns of all time. I've really developed an interest in 32 autos lately. And of course, when you start talking about 32 autos, you can't help but start with the best, and that's John Browning's design 1903 Model M for Colt.
There it is.
It's one of the best 32 autos ever made. It was called the Pocket Hammerless. There's no exposed hammer on here. This particular piece has the original box, the factory literature, shooting suggestions, everything about it is beautiful, original blue finish, pearl grips. Just a fantastic little gun.
The finish on it is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic. It looks practically brand new.
It is. It's, as they would say, new in box.
Yeah.
But, this box couldn't be any newer than 1946 because that's when they stopped making these. It is, in my estimation, one of the finest concealed carry pieces ever made. When I have a choice to carry concealed, it's the 1903 I take on the road with me.
And tell us a little bit, before we get in this gun in particular, why you believe that.
Well, one, it's very thin. It's a very thin gun. It's easily concealed. There's no hammer. There's no protruding front sight to get hooked on anything, to catch on anything. And if you're going to carry something that has some class. And John Browning,
this got class written all over it, Phil. I mean, and the grips. We were just talking before we went on air here. That's not mother of pearl. That's pearl.
Yeah, that's. We all know what General Patton said about pearl, but in this case, it's quite a it really adds to the adds to the gun. They made over 600,000 of these between 1903 and 1946 when they stopped making them. It's an 8-shot pistol with a 4-inch barrel to it. There are a lot of collecting variants to the types of grips that were on them, the roundels, the factory monograms on them. There's a string of these that were made blue and Parkerized that are marked U.S. property on the side. And that served a couple of purposes during World War II. Those are the real collector's items, are the ones marked U.S. property. A lot of them were made and issued to the OSS for special agent use. Those guys didn't take a Liberator with them into Berlin to do some dirty work. They were taking the 32. Other property marked ones, and you can research the serial numbers if you have one at home, were issued to general officers. It was decided that somebody achieving that level of rank should be given a gun that they don't have to turn in at the end of the war, at the end of their career. And it was something they could keep. And that tradition carried on until the 1970s to the Vietnam-era war. It's called the General Officer's Pistol when it's in that configuration.
Now, one of the neat things about this specimen, and also I'm sure adds to the value, is all the original packing material, the box, and the literature, and it's so neat to look at. You mentioned there's a shooting suggestions here, which is, I'd love to, we don't have time to get into it now, but I'm sure that's great for reading. And something else, now Phil, this was manufactured, when did you say it was manufactured? Probably?
Well, this is called the 1903 in 32. And that was made from 1903 until 1946.
Okay.
Now its identical twin brother is called the 1908, and that was manufactured in 380. Not so many of those, about 140,000 compared to the 600,000 of these that were made. And that gun was made from 1908 until 1945.
Now my observation I'm making, inside the top of the box here, I don't know if you can see it, not only says Colt automatic pistol, it has everything right below it in Spanish.
Yeah.
La pistola automática Colt, and it's got all the instructions in Spanish, which is kind of neat to see that for back when this was manufactured.
Right, Colt knew their market.
It's amazing. So tell us a little bit about the value of something like this with all this original material here.
Boy, something like that you got to really look out for. The end papers on the box should have a serial number written on them. You want to make sure that matches the gun. You want to make sure the gun's not been re-blued, that it's still the original finish. If you don't know what you're doing, take it to somebody who does. I would say new in the box like this. I'm not exactly sure what year this was made, but it looks to be mid-20s, early 30s. That this gun would probably bring a couple $1,000s today. I mean, you could buy a regular 1903 for $400 in a gun show, but when you have all the impedimenta like this, it's pretty
Now,
cool.
you bring up a good point, though. Not all of us have Phil Schreier, who I can call and say, hey, Phil, take a look at this. When someone out there is researching a firearm like this, where do you suggest they go to get that kind of expert advice to check out, make sure it hasn't been reblued or that things match? Where's a good place to go for that kind of information?
Well, you know, I guess the best thing to do is to read some of the magazines. You know, find out who's out there in your area. Generally, a reputable gun dealer should be able to steer you in the right direction. Go to a local gun show. Ask around. Ask the promoter of the show who he knows in the venue that you know knows their Colts.
And you need a specialist, though, not just a gun dealer, nothing against them, but someone who knows about a firearm like this, who would know about things like this, not just whether it functionally works, but whether all the numbers match the bluing and all that stuff. You need someone who's not a historian, but who specializes in firearms like these.
Right, and NRA has a wonderful opportunity for things of that nature. It's called our Affiliated Gun Collector Programs Department, and there are 120 clubs throughout the country that specialize in different aspects of firearms collecting, whether it's local or regional, say the Dallas Arms Collectors or the Ohio Gun Collectors, or it could be things on a national scope like the Colt Collectors or the M1 Garand Collectors Association. There are tons of these clubs out there that cater to the type of thing that you're just talking about, and are full of wonderful guys and gals who really know their stuff, can tell you whether this is a second type or third type, you know, what kind of grip should have been on it from the factory, all those kinds of things. The members of these clubs will be able to help you with. And you can get in touch with them through the NRA. We have most of them listed on our website, links to their websites.
Excellent.
And a lot of them hold annual conventions. If you were interested in this Colt, the Colt Collectors will be meeting in the first weekend of October this year.
Perfect.
And you might be able to, they might be in your neighborhood and come by and visit some of the most knowledgeable experts in the field of any particular collecting interest.
Great place to start. And Phil Schreier, thank you very much. And by the way, get out when you're out here in the DC area, get out to the National Firearms Museum. Open all week, right?
All week, 7 days a week. Admission is always free. We are open from 9:30 in the morning until 5 at night, Sunday through Friday, and open until 7 on Saturdays. And of course, you can always visit us online at nationalfirearmsmuseum.org.
Phil Schreier, thank you once again for a wonderful installment of the Curator's Corner.
Thank you, John.